Man,
Well, yeah.
I tried to be on time. All right. I tried to be on time. It's what happens when you run into people in grocery stores in Wisconsin. They talk your ear off, and then you're like, crap, I got to go.
You can only say oop and oh, that's crazy so many times.
Yeah, well, and
but you can't be blunt with those Northern Plains people, though.
There's a thing called the Wisconsin goodbye. And it begins with slapping your thighs and going, well, I suppose. And 3.5 weeks later.
But don't you have to say that as you're getting up out of the chair?
Yeah, it won't matter. Because what'll happen is it goes in stages. So you work your way across the room to the door. You'll have everything on. And then it'll be, oh, wait, take leftovers with you. And so then you got to go back and get leftovers. And then you'll get back to the door. And that's after you've had one more for the road.
Of course.
And then you'll have your hand on the doorknob for at least 15 to 20 minutes. And then you'll have the door open and then it'll close again because you'll realize, okay, I'm not getting out the door. And then you'll open it and then you'll have to close it again at least 2 or 3 times. And then finally you'll get out, you'll get to your car. And then it'll be about another 15 to 20 minutes. And then you'll get into the car and finally be able to leave.
That's terrifying. That is literally, it literally gives me anxiety just thinking about it.
That's the Midwest goodbye. In contrast to the Irish goodbye.
If I'm ready to go, I'm leaving. It's just poof. Gone. Like I've gotten up in the middle of the conversation and just left without saying anything.
Yeah, it's an Irish goodbye.
I was ready to go.
Yeah. That's called an Irish goodbye.
Yeah.
Which is funny because the Irish don't say goodbye. I mean, if we really truly have to leave, we will. But what's funny about calling it an Irish goodbye is the Irish are probably the reason why the Wisconsin goodbye is the Wisconsin goodbye. Like the Irish also take 1.5 million years to actually leave. Yeah. Like the timeline between, well, I suppose, and and actually exiting even the building involves at least 2 more beers and another 45 minutes to an hour of conversation. Like you just need to build that into your plans.
You got to get on the Cali goodbye. Right, the Cali goodbye is you stand up, you say, I gotta go, and you say peace out, and you leave. Or if you're one of the cool guys, then you have like a 7-stage handshake, and then you bounce.
There's actually Charlie Barron's, the wonderful Wisconsin comedian, does an entire skit on. He has a video on the Wisconsin goodbye where like people just get trapped in this house forever. I'm like, wait, how long have you been here? 3 years. Help me.
Yeah, no. Just that's negative. Like, I mean, you've seen it when we sign off here. I'll be like, okay, I gotta go. I'll talk to you guys later, and I'm out. Like, you guys can be mid saying something to me, I'm out.
I have actually. You know, and I can plead autism because I have autism, but I have actually, like, in the middle of a conversation, realized I didn't want to deal with it anymore. And I was just like, I'm going to go, and just turned around and walked away. And they're like, wait, and I just kept walking and just picked up the pace a little bit. Cause I'm like, nope. We're leaving.
Yes. That's the way to do it.
Yeah. Just freaking dip, man. Like, it's just, I don't want to have this conversation anymore, and leave. Jack, to answer your question, the red in Irish hair that is alleged is incredibly rare, and it's because it's actually from the Norse. It has nothing to do with traditional Irish heritage. It's the guys that Brian Boru kind of kicked out and isolated to Dublin. Yeah, those guys, they're the reason for the red.
Yes. The Scots have a lot of red, and it's because of the Norse.
They were Danelaw areas, up there and stuff. So that was why, including Harold Bluetooth and what's his name, Bloodhair, and there was a couple of others. gotta wonder, like Bluetooth supposedly, because like the Vikings really like to like color their teeth, and like they were the first ones to have both dreadlocks and grills, right? Like the Celts and the Norse were actually the ones who first had dreadlocks and grills. And the Norse especially love to do the grill thing. We found Norse skulls with like gemstones inlaid in their teeth and stuff.
Which is terrifying because they didn't have things like Novocaine back then.
Yeah, no, they just like you don't screw with a guy who's willing to like just carve into his own teeth to glue gemstones in there.
Yeah.
And they're like stuck in there with like metal, like it's like molten like silver gold kind of thing sticking them. Like that is not a man you get into a fight with, because you can take that dude's arm off with a sword and he'll just beat you to death with it. Like you do not screw with that guy. But like they did a bunch of that, and like that's why Harold Bluetooth probably was called Bluetooth, right? Is he actually literally had blue teeth. Why was blood hair called blood hair?
Yes.
That's troubling.
Yeah, now that we're 6.5 minutes into it, hello. Welcome to another fantastic episode of Anarchy Monk Friends Roundtable Discussion. We're already started, but we're going to remind you that we are covered by the BIPCOT No Government License, which allows for the use and the reuse of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for governments and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That's BIPCOT.org. We're also covered by Brandenburg v. Ohio 1969, which ruled that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech, quote, unless that speech is directed to, inciting, or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. Therefore, everything said here on Anarchy Monk Friends Roundtable Discussion is entirely hypothetical. This is episode 221, which I think I titled Disinformation Nation. I think that's the working title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also sounds like a cool punk song too.
Disinformation Nation.
Mm.
Yep. Get on it, no effects.
Yeah. Or
Pennywise.
Ice-T's band. I don't remember what they're called, but
yeah. Kill Shot or something like that.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Body Count? Are they actually called They're actually called Body Count, right?
Yeah, I think they're called Body Count. Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Be a good one for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many people think Ice-T is a rapper?
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's a punk artist. And they're like, what do you mean he's a punk artist or thrash? I mean, depending on what you want to call it, but yeah. He is not a rapper.
Yeah, Shaw says all their teeth were dead by the time they were 16, so they probably didn't feel the good teeth.
Actually, that's not true.
That's not true.
They had fantastic teeth, in fact. Fantastic teeth. Actually, just about everybody in Europe had really, really good teeth until they discovered North America.
Until the monarchs took over.
Well, no, I mean, with the monarchs in charge, like realistically, up until the 15th century and really the 16th century, they all had pretty darn good, healthy teeth. In fact, that's one of the ways when you're doing archaeological digs on grave sites in Europe, that's one of the ways you can date those graves is if they had good teeth, it was before 1492. If it is bad, horrible rotted teeth, it is after, because of the discovery of sugar
cane. Yeah, molasses, the good stuff. What's the saying? They scoured the earth in search of spices, and they don't use any of them.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's the British. It's they really don't, and it's hilarious because they used to. If you look back, like at the meal plans of like Henry VIII and stuff, you actually discover that he had a pretty wide variety of spices that he had. Tudor England was actually full of a lot of spices, but for some reason at some point they just decided they didn't want to use them anymore.
Scott, what's up, brother?
saffron, especially, which
Mm-mm.
has always kind of mystified me because it's like perpetually been one of the world's single most expensive spices. It is so valuable, in fact, that there are saffron cartels, and most saffron that you can get across most of the world is actually fake.
Yeah,
Or
we have
mostly fake.
avocado cartels here in Cali.
There are maple syrup cartels in Canada.
Yes. So,
Freaking Canadians.
so all right, where do you want to start? Let's start at the beginning, since we're talking about
Disinformation Nation.
nothing that is resembling at all what we were talking about.
Since we're talking about completely irrelevant bullshit, let's talk about.
Okay. This is serious now. This is a hill.com, thehill.com. Biden seeks to flip the script on freedom in 2024.
What?
Just prepare yourself. Hold on. President Biden is flipping the script on Republicans by casting himself as a protector of freedom, going on the offense by using a word and concept conservatives have frequently cited to push back on the president and his party. Biden's campaign launched a video titled Freedom and referenced freedom or freedoms 6 times over the course of the clip. The campaign's
you're not just about freedom because you keep saying the word freedom.
The campaign's first official ad used those words 7 times.
I can use the word rich repeatedly when I'm talking about myself, and I'm not suddenly going to have a Ferrari sitting outside.
Hold on.
That isn't how this works.
Hold on. The president's team had used the term aggressively to tie Republicans, and in particular his political foe, Donald Trump, to the January 6th riot at the Capitol that some in the GOP have been reluctant to condemn, and to highlight the GOP efforts to curb abortion access and squash dissent in state houses. Quote, "It's pretty clear the strategy here is going to be Republicans are coming after our freedoms and our ability to XYZ," said one Democratic strategist. Quote, "Those are typically talking points Republicans use, so we're playing on their turf and winning."
Literally, no one is fooled by you. Like, no one is actually fooled. No one who is undecided before is fooled by this.
Yes.
All you're doing is like trying to go, there, see? Like, it's like if for instance somebody who is not white says something really racist against somebody who's white, right? And then that person goes, "Hey, that's racist," and they're like, "No, you're racist," and then strut around like a pigeon who just won chess. Like that's what this is, where you're like, you're calling something what it is, and then their response is to try and manipulate the words to mean absolutely nothing at all, which we've talked about on this show multiple times, and how it's something that we see authoritarians do constantly.
Yes. The efforts put Biden on a collision course with Trump, former Vice President Pence, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who all frequently talk about the freedom, even as their visions for the country diverge sharply with Biden's. Biden has been embracing the idea of freedom and pitching himself as the candidate most willing to defend basic freedoms in the early days of the 2024 campaign.
But when?
Hold on.
Can I see an instance?
Well, he called for an assault weapons ban yesterday. So
because banning things is absolutely all about freedom.
Yes. The president and his campaign have emphasized Republican attacks on reproductive rights through restrictive abortion bans at the state level after a conservative Supreme Court majority overturned Roe v. Wade. It did not overturn Roe v. Wade. What it did is the court literally said, we don't have the authority to have a ruling in this particular case.
Yeah, what it did is it nullified the Roe v. Wade decision and said They
Yes.
should not have ruled because it was legislation from the bench, which they're not allowed to do.
Yes.
Which immediately, of course, then people on the American political left said was legislating from the bench, and we need to stop these. The funniest part to me was hearing people on the American political left say, well, we need to stop these judges from legislating from the bench, which is verbatim a thing that was getting said when I was a senior in high school.
Yes.
By Republicans.
Yes.
And only one of those two groups of people was correct at the time.
Yes. The campaign has also spoken about Americans' right to be free from gun violence and the fear of mass shootings, putting a spin on the notion by the GOP that Democrats want to impede on their gun rights.
You do not have a right to safety, ever, in any situation.
I just want my bulletproof bubble.
This is, I mean, you don't.
That's what I need. That's what I need. I need a laminated plexiglass bubble that can protect me from everything.
You know, my question to these people is because these are the same people, right, who go on and on about respecting nature, right? Would you like to show me in nature where anything has a right to safety or food or water or anything?
Hold on. Just, this gets better.
Oh boy.
To portray the president as a defender of basic pillars of democracy. Remember, this is about freedom. They're defending him as a as a defender of the basic pillars of democracy, as if democracy isn't antithetical to freedom.
Which is something that even the founding fathers of America, including the Federalists, had to say repeatedly, was that democracy was the enemy of freedom because it was nothing but mob rule.
Yes. To portray the president as a defender of the basic pillars of democracy, Biden's launch video begins with and features violent images from January 6th, in which Trump supporters stormed the Capitol to stop Congress from completing the last steps in certifying the 2020 election. That's not actually what happened. And hold on. Give me 3 paragraphs. Biden and the campaign have framed conservative culture war issues like book bans and laws targeting gender-affirming care as a matter of freedom, believing it will resonate with the Americans who see the GOP lawmakers as overstepping.
I mean, they do. They do. Don't get me wrong. They absolutely do all the fucking time. Yes. They are no more about freedom than the Democrats are by any stretch of the fucking imagination. But what?
Okay. Here's a quote. Here's a quote from Kamala Harris. She said at an event at Harvard University on the day Biden launched his re-election campaign. She says, and I quote, "Fundamental freedoms are under attack in our country today. The tradition of our country to fight for freedom, to fight for rights, to fight for the ability of all people to be who they are and make decisions about their own lives and their bodies."
I mean, that wasn't wrong, but the way that she means it is not what those words are supposed to mean.
Hold on. For years, conservatives have tried to claim the freedom mantle, painting Democrats as a party of government overreach that would interfere with the day-to-day lives and the decisions of Americans. Republicans have frequently cited the idea of freedom to defend the Second Amendment after mass shootings, to oppose early Biden administration efforts to require COVID-19 vaccination in certain situations, and to support arguments against gender-affirming policies at the state level.
Gender affirming, because you don't truly have the gender unless the government says so, slave.
Mike Pence says, quote, "It's about common sense. It's about defending women's sports. But make no mistake about it, the battle against radical gender ideology is a battle for religious freedom. And it's a battle we must fight."
I mean, Pence is a jackass authoritarian
Yes.
motherfucker too, but even a broken clock every once in a while. No, so like he's equating democracy with freedom, right?
Yes.
That's what he's trying to do. So, quote, remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide. John Adams. Democracies have been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. James Madison. It has been observed that a pure democracy, if it were practicable, would be the most perfect government. Experience has proved that no position is more false than this. The ancient democracies in which the people themselves deliberated never possessed one good feature of government. Their very character was tyranny, their figure deformity. Alexander Hamilton. Between a balanced republic and a democracy, the difference is like that between order and chaos. John Marshall. The experience of all former ages had shown that of all human governments, democracy was the most unstable, fluctuating, and short-lived. John Quincy Adams. If ever a time should come when vain and aspiring men shall possess the high seats in government, our country will stand in need of its experienced patriots to prevent its ruin. Samuel Adams. You see where I'm going?
DeSantis used the word freedom or freedoms 12 times in his re-election speech back in January. So he had to increase that. And then Tim Scott, Republican out of South Carolina, another candidate who's expected to formally enter the 2024 race this month, has also used freedom as a line of attack against Biden as he sharpens his message for the presidential contest. Quote, Joe Biden says he wants to talk about freedom. Americans need more freedom. Freedom from his bone-crushing inflation and even higher taxes. Freedom from showing up to his school board meeting to talk about your kids and being considered a domestic terrorist. Freedom from a wide open, insecure, unsafe border. Yes, we want to talk about freedom.
Well, I don't think you have freedom from a wide open border because it's an imaginary line, and that's ridiculous. But and you don't have positive rights, right? Like you don't have the ability to say I have a freedom from a thing. You have freedom to do things, right? Like you don't have freedom to something that would require action
by someone else.
Yeah. Like you have a freedom to defend yourself. You have the freedom to decide what would happen with your own body. Yes, which the Democrats keep bringing up, but they don't actually mean that because look at the whole COVID thing. You have the freedom to pursue, your own happiness so long as that happiness does not cause the infringement of rights of others. You have those freedoms, but you do not have the freedom from being unsafe, right? Like that's a thing that requires action. You don't have a freedom to, you don't have a freedom to have medical care because that requires the labor of others. You don't have a right to that. Like this is the whole thing, that freedom is about the absence of interference with your ability to do things
without forcing anyone else
to
do them. Yeah.
And that's you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. I don't think any of them really understand what it means. It's Scott, DeSantis, Pence, Trump, Biden, Kamala Harris. None of them know what that word means. Right, they don't. But like, I would argue that at least some of the Republicans out there have a better understanding, are closer to what it means than any Democrat I've ever encountered.
Yes, and because in a lot of situations, I prefer the Republican tyranny to the Democratic tyranny.
You remember like 20-ish years ago when everything was getting called racist, right? People would use the term racist for everything when it had nothing to do with race.
Yes,
like you would actually hear the term, that's racist against poor people, as if poor people was a race, or that's racist. This is that, right? Because these people honestly think they can that the word has no actual meaning. And so they just apply it to things. And then now magically that's the thing. It's the same as that law that said, this isn't an infringement on the Second Amendment rights, that blatantly infringed on the Second Amendment rights. You don't get to just declare things, right? Like that isn't how, like, I didn't just say it. I declared it. Like, that isn't how this works. Michael
we signed
Scott.
a piece of paper. Yes, we signed a piece of paper saying that you can't do this. It's not.
It's right here on this napkin.
It's not an infringement because we signed this piece of paper. Because we voted on it. It's not infringement.
We voted in a pub and then signed using a fountain pen on this bev nap from.
Oh, that's just a stain from the glass. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's not important.
Don't worry about that. But...
I mean, it's not. You can't just use like the words like freedom, liberty. They used to be a universal concept that people understood.
Yes,
and they have become steadily more and more corrupted to the point that where now somehow, remember that freedom is slavery is now in fact actually a thing. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. That is actually what the motto, especially of the Democratic Party.
1994 wasn't supposed to be a study guide. You know?
Well, and I would argue
Fahrenheit 451 wasn't supposed to be one either.
I was just going to say, I would argue, like in the case of Republicans, Fahrenheit 451 is not supposed to be one. And in the case of Democrats, they've both pulled that shit and then accused the other one. Like, it's like the two Spider-Men pointing at each other. Like, you're anti-freedom. You're anti-freedom.
Yeah.
You're kids. You're both just awful.
But there's like 5 Spider-Mans, right? I mean, there's the deep state, then there's the big tech, and then there's
big pharma,
and and then there's George Soros over there in the corner just laughing.
Good. Yeah.
Let the freedom flow through you.
Yeah. Ambrose Bierce, Bierce, famously said, democracy is 4 wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for lunch.
Uh-huh.
And, and liberty is a well-armed lamb contesting that vote.
That sort of line came to me today. I read an article out of Marin County. Marin County here in California is on the north side of the Golden Gate Bridge. There was an article and it was talking about there's a 2-mile long homeless encampment just off of the 101 access road, Highway 101 access road, and it's all RVs and people living in vehicles, right? But it's 2 miles long, like 135 vehicles. Marin County's average income is $131,000. The average home price in Marin County is $1.4 million.
And that's why they're homeless. Because even with today's interest rates on mortgages, which is actually average, right? It's not that they're high right now.
It's where they should have been all along.
Yeah, I've talked to guys who have been in the mortgage industry since the 80s, the early 90s. Every one of them said 7.5%, 8%. That's pretty average. Don't worry about it. Like, that's average.
Yeah.
But the thing is at that interest rate, if you make $130,000 a year, you should be able to relatively easily, depending on family size, afford a $200,000 house.
Yes, there's no $200,000 houses in this area.
Right. But when there's none of that, suddenly you're homeless. You're making 6 figures and you're homeless.
But look at all the freedoms they have.
Actually, homeless people are a hell of a lot more free.
I know.
Because they have nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to take away?
San Francisco, if you're homeless, San Francisco will automatically give you $600 a month.
Shit, if I'm homeless, I'm
right away. Right away.
Month, like,
and that's not including whatever you can get from the county, from welfare, from the for
food
disability,
stamps,
for SSI, for food stamps, from VA, whatever. If you're homeless in San Francisco, right off the bat, here's $600 a month.
Which means that you're actually more likely to be living more comfortably by being homeless than trying to maintain an apartment.
Yes. because you can't rent an apartment in San Francisco for that little, right?
No.
I mean, and talk about the choices, democracy, right, of San Francisco. Since Mayor London Breed has come into office, I mean, Gavin Newsom fucked it up. Don't get me wrong. Jerry Brown fucked it up before Gavin Newsom. But since London Breed has come into office, the city's gone even worse, to the point where I was reading the other day, in the last 2 years, something like $15.9 billion worth of income has left the city.
Yeah.
Like people that combined made $15.9 billion with a B moved away from San Francisco.
Yeah. Because they flat out could not afford to live there.
Yeah. Jack says tents are the fastest selling homes. The Walmarts and Targets in the area, including all the way out here in Antioch, I'm about 35 miles east of Oakland. Most of the camping gear is behind a locked case.
Yeah. Because it's the only affordable housing in the area.
Yes.
And it's real affordable because California has this fantastic program where you can take anything you want.
Different counties, yeah. Different counties.
But still, like, it's just, my God. And it's the reality is, right, like, as California
but as Jack says, they have the right to shit on the sidewalk.
Hey, I mean,
they have the right.
sweet.
They have the right to free abortions. They have the right to free contraceptives. They have the right to nudity. San Francisco defends the right to be nude in public.
There are so many people who should not take advantage of that right. Like, I think you
98% of just should not.
Like, you have. Do you have the right? I would argue that you do, but should you?
Yes. Yes. I have the right to walk around with one of those bug assault rock salt rifles.
Those, dude, I want one so bad. They're way more expensive than I thought they were going to be. Like, I looked them up because I'm like, I really want one. They're like $50.
Yeah, but
my God, that's way pricier than I thought. Like, I could fill one of those Airzukas with a bunch of Raid and go thunk for a hell of a lot cheaper. Just like a ring of neurotoxin going out. And
yes.
Yeah, the ones who exercise the right are normally the ones stay covered. Yeah, that's, and that's a very disappointing thing. Although if you go to the Bahamas, there's certain islands that, anyway, they're expensive, but if you go, you will not be disappointed, my friend.
Loincloth and Hawaiian shirt. Dress how you fight, right?
Train how you fight. No problem. Glug, 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 glug. Strip. Woo!
Oh.
I mean, but this is another example that, like, we keep talking about doublespeak, right? Like, we've episode after episode, we find ourselves talking about doublespeak and about this whole thing where they're like trying to take buzzwords that their opposition, that people who actually care about freedom and things have been using, and try and manipulate them so that they become meaningless, to try and disarm us in the war of information and the war for the hearts and minds of the populace. And now they have taken aim at the word freedom itself.
Yeah, it's not. They've already killed the word bigot, racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic. Those words mean nothing anymore because they're so broad. The definition is expanded so far that the word is useless. It has no negative power anymore. Right. So now they're taking umbrage at the word freedom, and they're trying to turn freedom into something that it's not. So that you can say, yes, I am still free, but you can't do this and this and that and that and this and this and that. It's standard communist operating procedure. Yes, if you can destroy the language, you can destroy if you destroy the language, you destroy the culture. If you destroy the culture, you conquer the people.
Well, yeah, if you can manipulate words because that's the thing, right? Like a war of information, a war for the hearts and minds of individuals involves a war of words.
Yes.
That's the battlefield, right? And that's largely the battlefield that we find ourselves presently fighting on. And if they can disarm those words, if they can steal them away and make them meaningless, then you have nothing to fight with in that particular war. Yeah. What is a woman? Yeah. What is a woman? And the next one that they're going to go after is what is a child?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they've already killed the word fetus.
Mm-hmm.
It's there was
I saw a news article the other day that said something about how it was a fetus with umbilical cords still attached, found in dumpster, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Right. And like a whole bunch of us comment on the article and like, no, that is a baby, because like the medical examiner even confirmed like this is a completely viable baby. We're like, no, that is a baby.
Yep.
But now they're suddenly that they've even expanded the word fetus to mean children who are born.
Yep. Which is
so when does post-birth abortion begin?
Oh, there's people already pushing for that.
Oh, there have been people pushing that for a while. I can remember 15 years ago, right around 15 years ago, maybe 17, 18 years ago, there was a professor at an Ivy League university who pushed for abortive right or reproductive rights of women up to age 4.
Yeah, no, fuck that.
Yeah, he literally advocated for the right of women, right of mothers to kill their own children up to age 4. Like, this is how depraved these people are.
Yes. Never mind the freedom of the child.
Yeah, because the child doesn't count unless the mother says it does, which is always funny because they're also the ones who think that like these abusive husbands who murder their pregnant, their pregnant wives or pregnant girlfriends, and them getting charged with 2 counts of murder instead of 1. They always advocate for that and they're happy with that. And then you go, but you don't know whether or not the mom wanted to keep that baby. Yep. So how would you know if that baby counts as a baby or a fetus?
They're not mass shootings. They're post-birth abortions.
Yeah. They're just very, very late term. They're just 37th trimester abortion.
God. Oh, we're bad people. Oh, we're bad people.
But I mean,
I'm okay with that.
Like, that's, and I'm not here to get into the abortion debate, right? Like, I honestly, like, I have my opinions on that. You might have differing opinions on that, and I don't really care what your opinions are. You're wrong if they disagree with me. But I don't care. I don't care. That's why I don't debate it, because I honestly don't care. Unplanned, sir, that was an
adult politician. I said what I said.
Yeah, I said what I said. But I mean, like, I don't care what your opinion is. Like, I honestly don't. And it's so fun. I will say that, like, learning to say that to people is great. Like, it feels fantastic to just when somebody's like, no, you're wrong. And you're like, no, I'm not. You are. And then walk away.
Yes. Jack Donovan's essay, I don't care. I'll quote that to people on occasion, and it blows their mind. They're just, what do you mean you don't care? I don't care.
I mean, that your opinion could not conceivably in the present reality matter to me less. I don't care.
Pretty much. Absolutely. That's not wrong at all. Like, I couldn't care less. I don't know you. I don't know the person you're talking about. I was not part of what happened. I don't care.
Do you know how many memes I have in my reaction meme folder that are like I'm sorry that you don't like me, strange internet person, and like stuff like, because those are like my default replies when people argue with me where I'm just like, that's my reply. That's it. Like, oh, shucks, you don't like me. You disagree with my opinion. This is my not caring face.
Yeah. I don't care. I literally couldn't care.
And I've told them, like, I've told people, it's okay. You have the right to be wrong. You're still wrong.
So, all right, let's move on to let's get into this disinformation stuff. Bringing
Disinformation Nation. I don't know. That's I'm not a composer. Don't look at me.
one of the lyrics from Andrew's song is bringing the war on terror home to target Americans for disinformation.
Actually, that would be a good lyric.
Mm-hmm.
I need a singer-songwriter stat. We're writing a punk song.
Yes.
Hey,
this
I don't need to be able to sing to do punk. All right, I just need to be able to scream into a microphone.
Hey, G.G. Allen made an entire career out of that.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Well,
realistically,
that and shitting on himself and rolling around on stage, but he didn't sing.
That's I'm not going to say that's super punk, but I'm sure that makes some sort of a statement.
That's misinformation. He had the freedom to do that.
The statement may be I have incontinence, but it's making a statement of some kind.
Yes. The U.S. government took the information techniques it learned after 9/11 and has turned them on Americans. America may have lost the Great War on Terror, but our technocratic elites could still win their own war against American liberty.
Did we lose the war on terror, though? Because that would indicate that we were trying to win.
That's true. I think we're just trying to replace the Taliban with the Taliban while arming them.
I mean, the sad reality is Afghanistan never in its entire extensive and incredibly ancient history has Afghanistan been more stable than
true.
When the Taliban were in charge, at least maybe since Alexander the Great took.
Yeah. and the Taliban are effective at limiting the poppy growth, poppy farming.
My favorite article since Taliban took back over was the one about how they had managed to kill this ISIS leader that the CIA was just so unable to track down, and they killed them. And like that, so many people in the American military were like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, that was just recently, right?
Yeah, and it's like, and everyone's like, what?"
Yeah.
It's like, oh, were you under the impression that ISIS and the Taliban were on the same side? No, because ISIS is on the CIA's side, and the Taliban actually are against them after having been with them for years. And
should have stayed in Syria. Okay. Article. The U.S. government took the information techniques it learned after 9/11 and it has turned them on Americans. America may have lost the Great War on Terror, but our technocratic elites could still win the war on American liberty. That's the argument made by Jacob Siegel in a 13,000-word tablet magazine article titled, quote, "A Guide to Understanding the Hoax of the Century," which seeks to explain, quote, "a high-level hoax perpetrated against the American people by elitists who believe themselves to be infallible." Which is not wrong. Specifically, Siegel writes, these infallible elites believe they are saving the world from, quote, disinformation, which is whatever they view as untruths about Russia, Ukraine, Donald Trump, COVID, climate change, election fraud, Brexit, etc. You name a flavor of disinfo, and they want to save us from it. And they're operating in the State Department and other federal agencies, and numerous foundations and NGOs, and 100 academic centers that have sprung up like mushrooms since 2016.
Is it just me, or do I feel like there should have been an episode of The Office where they decided to take out a war on disinformation? And like they just kept pointing at people and going, disinformation, every time anybody said anything.
That would have been pretty epic.
I feel like that should be a thing.
We're South Park. We're South Park.
Yeah, like where everyone's like, disinformation, and like freaking out about how everything's disinformation. And like you'd wind up with like Kyle's dad cowering like in the corner of the living room, shaking and just being like, nothing's true, nothing's real.
Randy's sitting there saying, that's disinformation. That's disinformation.
Yeah. You shouldn't say disinformation. Okay, disinformation can be harmful. Okay.
Oh, Cartman with a tinfoil hat.
Although we really should have waited to reference South Park until later, until we were getting ready to move on to the Bear Creek article.
Yeah, we'll get that. We can use them
because
there
the
too.
real South Park is right next to it.
Yeah. These people in orgs were originally schooled in the InfoWar technique associated with 9/11 and the Great War on Terror, but they don't seem to worry about jihadis these days, which they're not. Like, when's the last
They
time you
never
heard,
actually worried about the jihadis.
like, when's the last time you heard anything about terrorists outside the United States? Yeah.
Suddenly, somehow, the imminent threat of Muslim extremism has just melted away.
Yes. Don't seem to worry about jihadis these days. You see, the experts on InfoWar have morphed themselves into experts on Disinfowar. Bolstered by Pentagon-sized budgets, their new target is the American people, viewed as disinformation dunderheads or worse. Quote, what started out as a way to fight a far-off foe has quietly metastasized in a totalitarian fantasy of endless warfare against the erroneous thoughts and feelings of the ordinary citizen closer to home. That's a fucking fantastic sentence. What started out as a way to fight a far-off foe has quietly metastasized into a totalitarian fantasy of endless warfare against the erroneous thoughts and feelings of ordinary citizens closer to home.
That is a fantastic sentence.
That is a fantastic sentence. Oh. Okay, so yeah, we don't need to keep going on this article. It's just an article about this other article. I do want to read this one. This is from another one of the quotes. Let's see, where is it? It's the quote from Siegel quote, the message from the U.S. Defense Establishment was clear. To win the information war and existential conflict taking place in the borderless dimensions of cyberspace, the government needed to dispense with outdated legal distinctions between foreign terrorists and American citizens. Once again,
outdated.
Yes, once again, fighting terror is a legitimate and important goal. But here's where they have to put on a high degree of trust in other guardians and be trusted. The guardians need to be trustworthy. Okay, so we're going to go from there, and we're going to jump to a different article, which I did not give Andrew.
Hang on, before we go there, I want to, because of the disinformation thing, I want to bring up a couple of really good quotes. One, and I'm not going to tell you who said them, but we're gonna go through a few quotes. First of all, one of them is, think of the press as a great keyboard on which the government can play. Another one is, propaganda works best when those who are being manipulated are confident they are acting on their own free will. And the last one, and really most important in this one, is there was no point in seeking to convert the intellectuals. For intellectuals will never be converted and would anyway always yield to the stronger, and this will always be the man in the street. Arguments must therefore be crude, clear, and forcible, and appeal to emotions and instincts, not the intellect. Truth was unimportant and entirely subordinate to tactics and psychology. If you would like to know who said those, you feel free to Google that.
Yes. All right. So now to this hidden article that I did not tell Andrew about. This is an article from The Intercept, which means it's going to be lengthy. The government created a new disinformation office to oversee all the other ones.
Yeah.
Hold on. With the name. The new Foreign Malign Influence Center. The Foreign Malign Influence Center.
Immigrant Russians!
Yes. The new Foreign Malign Influence Center oversees efforts that span U.S. military, law enforcement, intelligence, and diplomatic agencies. Yes. Yes. Just for shits and giggles, I have to put that out there. The definition of the word malign means evil in nature or effect.
all I can think of is that really what they should have called Most Glorious People's Revolutionary Ministry against the malign influence of forest capitalist dogs.
Yes.
Like, why are we calling them? Why are we calling them bureaus or calling them ministries? Why aren't we just calling them people's ministries or people's councils? Like, really, I feel like, if we're a government of, by, and for the people, shouldn't we just be calling them people's ministries?
Yes. The people's ministries. Yes. Oh,
comrade.
The people's ministry of truth.
Yes. Exactly.
The Foreign Malign Influence Center. Within the federal government, offices dedicated to fighting foreign disinformation are springing up like daisies. From the Pentagon's new Influence and Perception Management Office to at least 4 organizations inside the Department of Homeland Security alone, as well as one inside the FBI and State Department, to oversee the growing efforts which arose in response to concerns about the impact of Russian meddling in the 2016 election, but have now expanded. The Director of National Intelligence has created a new office.
Can I just point out here, right? If you objectively consider the names of these organizations, and if they were in, say, a dystopian novel about the future of America, you should ask yourself the question, would this sound like a dystopian authoritarian regime?
You might even use the word Orwellian.
I was going there. I was going to say, and would it sound like they could just all be under an umbrella known as the Ministry of Truth?
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Well, ignorance is freedom. Right?
Well, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength.
Same thing.
And remember, war is also peace.
I'm ignorant, so I'm strong. I didn't know that.
Speaking of the misappropriation of words, I don't know if you also remember back when everyone was calling everybody ignorant, although half the time it was mispronounced as ignant. Like you'd actually hear people incredibly ironically go, "You ignorant," and I'd be like, that's irony defined.
They used it unironically as like as a person was stupid and not that a person was unknowing.
Yeah.
which is ironically ignorant.
Yeah. Like, you just ignorant. And that was my favorite, is like I would say something that like was well researched and reasoned and like, hey, and I get you ignorant. And I'd be like, right. Well, if anyone ever needs to look up irony, this right here.
In testimony before the Senate Armed Services Committee on Thursday, Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines, for the first time, mentioned the creation of the Foreign Malign Influence Center. Quote, Congress put into law that we should establish a Foreign Malign Influence Center in the intelligence community. We have stood that up, Hines said, referencing the legislation passed last year. Quote, it encompasses our election threat work, essentially looking at foreign influence and interference in elections, and also deals with disinformation more generally.
Disinformation. No. Keep calm. This is just misinformation. Anybody else ever watch V for Vendetta or read the comic book? Don't worry, this is just misinformation.
Yeah, hold on. Give me a paragraph and a half. The FMIC was established on September 23rd of last year after Congress approved funding, but its creation was announced publicly only after the Intercept's inquiry. Because it is situated in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, It enjoys the unique authority to marshal support from all elements of U.S. intelligence community to monitor and combat foreign influence efforts such as disinformation campaigns. The FMIC is authorized to counter foreign disinformation targeting not just U.S. elections, but also, quote, the public opinion within the United States generally.
Because that's absolutely the mark of a free nation, is that the government seeks to control information.
Also, the public opinion within the United States generally. They are literally
Propagandists.
literally programmers. Cultural, informational, emotional programmers. Where's Goebbels would be just, he would have to go change his pants. He would nut all over himself. It would just be just so bad. Hunter, yes.
There's so many quotes that I could bring up here.
Which book are you reading out of?
Oh, I'm not reading. Well, I am reading out of a book. It is
okay.
a book by a man that I haven't said. You brought him up, but I haven't said. I said to Google him.
Is this the guy that worked for that painter that one time?
Yeah. He once said it is the absolute right of the state to supervise the formation of public opinion.
Yeah.
He also says the essence of propaganda consists in winning people over to an idea so sincerely, so vitally, that in the end they succumb to it utterly and can never escape from it.
Yes. But we're the crazy ones.
He's also the guy who said if you tell a lie long enough, it becomes the truth. He also said the most brilliant propagandist technique will yield no success unless one fundamental principle is borne in mind constantly. It must confine itself to a few points and repeat them over and over.
Such as freedom.
Freedom.
Such as freedom. Freedom, democracy. Freedom.
The rank and file are usually much more primitive than we imagine. Propaganda must therefore always be essentially simple and repetitious.
Yeah.
Freedom. Oh yeah. Let's see. What else did he say? Whoever can conquer the street will one day conquer the state. For every form of power politics and any dictatorship run state has its roots in the street.
Yes. Look at California on that one.
That's if you can tell a lie, tell a big one. There's no need for propaganda to be rich in intellectual content. A media system wants ostensible diversity that conceals an actual uniformity. He also said another really good one that he said, where is it here? About when you know you win. Oh, we shall reach our goal when we have the power to laugh as we destroy, as we smash whatever was sacred to us, as tradition, as education, and as human affection. This is all sounding kind of familiar, isn't it?
Yes. Okay. You ready? The center's motto. Exposing deception in defense of liberty.
War is peace, freedom is strength. Slavery, ignorance is strength. Oh my God. This is my God. What's actually funny, speaking of propaganda, so Jack brings up in a roundabout way, he brought up Braveheart, which is one of the single most ahistorical films that has ever been made about a actual historical figure in the history of mankind. Where it makes William Wallace out to be like an everyman, even though he was a landed noble at the behest of the English crown. It also like portrays him as doing it over like a woman instead of over the fact that like he basically couldn't tax his people more than he wanted to, or as much as he wanted to. It just, oh boy, like
Yes.
it's so bad. There's nothing historical about that film at all, other than the fact that some of the people named in it did in fact exist.
Yes. Foreign disinformation became a focus of the U.S. government after Russia's state-sanctioned attempts to interfere in the 2016 election were relied in part on the bots and trolls to amplify falsehoods and dissemination through social media. Following the election, Congress passed a bipartisan law, the Countering Foreign Propaganda and Disinformation Act, which established the State Department's GEC. Since then, the government entities charged with combating foreign disinformation have proliferated. In the fall of 2017, the FBI established the Foreign Influence Task Force. In 2018, the Department of Homeland Security established the Countering Foreign Intelligence Task Force. Wait, so there's the Foreign Influence Task Force, Countering Foreign Influence Task Force.
The task force for the committee to establish the committee that will counter foreign influence task force.
So in fall of 2017, the FBI established the Foreign Influence Task Force. Right. In 2018, the Department of Homeland Security established the Countering Foreign Influence Task Force, which in 2021 was updated to include misinformation, disinformation, and malign information, as well as the Foreign Influence and Interference Branch last year, the Disinformation Governance Board.
Can I just point out, though, too, and it needs to be brought up here, these are all under the umbrella of the DHS, right?
Yes. To one degree or another, yes.
Who established the Department of Homeland Security?
Wasn't that under Bushy?
George W. Bush. Yeah. So we've been ragging a lot on Democrats, but I just want to point out
Hold on.
that the Patriot Act and the establishment of the Department of Homeland Security, which doesn't at all sound like it's a Nazi thing at all.
Hold on. Okay. The foreign governments such as Russia spread lies as part of propaganda to advance their own interest is not in dispute. But the effects or the efforts to counter disinformation have now become a cottage industry that critics suggest has grown far out of proportions to the threat. Last month, a Pentagon-funded think tank concluded that Russia's efforts as of 2019 were not well coordinated and overstated in their impact.
Oh gosh, who overstated those?
Quote, the Russian disinformation machine has been neither well organized nor especially well resourced, contrary to some implications in popular media. And the impact of Russia's efforts on the West have been uncertain. That's from a Rand Corporation study that concluded last year. The report called for greater efforts to, quote, reduce over-attribution of disinformation on social media to Russia, warning that, quote, pointing fingers at Russia in every instance of activity on social media resembles Russian interference pointing the finger at Russia in every instance of activity on social media resembling Russian interference distorts the understanding of the threat. They also stress that, quote, algorithms that merely pick up bots, pro-Russian content, both on social media, are liable to over-attribute.
Oh, gosh. What?
They're literally they literally became the boy that cried wolf, and then created an entire disinformation board to oversee all the other created disinformation boards to counter the over-attribution of disinformation to Russia.
Gee. Which does lead one to a very simple question, because they clearly are aware that the foreign influences that they're claiming did not nearly have the foreign influence that they're claiming that they had. So why continue to keep establishing all of this anti-disinformation apparatus?
Military budgets. There's no war anymore.
Oh, it's not even about military budgets.
Well, not
because
military.
The DHS
se,
doesn't fall under military budget.
Yeah.
The DHS doesn't fall under military budget.
Defense budgets.
It can fall under defense budget, but the reality is, because they're not preparing for the actual threat, they're preparing for the impending one, and that one is not from Russia.
Nope. I mean, the global war on terror came home. Remember that. Don't forget what happened to a whole bunch of us on social media, right? During the last election and during COVID. To put it, I don't want to say it. I don't really want to say it this way, but to put it in another, we are the Al Qaeda now. Like, I mean, I don't know a better way to say it. I don't know a better way to say it. Like, we are the terrorists now.
It's, I mean, and that's the thing too, is like that I try to like communicate to people is like, you need to understand that they are preparing for their moves, and they're doing it incrementally, so no one will necessarily notice what they're preparing for.
You know what it is? You know what they're just exercising their freedom to create the narrative.
I love when people go, the government has the freedom. No, the government has no freedom. The government is itself, the very existence of it is the antithesis of freedom.
Yes. Shaw says, where are our 72 virgins, damn it? They're at Comic-Con, bro.
I was going to say, dude, have you ever gone and played D&D? I can tell you where they're at.
They're in the chat of a Twitch streamer.
They're like, dude, I can tell you where this. If you go to the, I think it's the Brass Dragon or Bronze Dragon or something here in town. That's the alcohol-free gaming bar here in town, which itself is like one of the coolest concepts I've ever heard of. It's super awesome. They're like literally, it's a get-together location for people to go play like RPGs and tabletop games and stuff just with other people, and like just that they've never played with before and would otherwise not interact with, so they can all just gather there. It's like the ultimate nerd spot. It's so freaking cool.
Shaw's, if you want your 72 virgins, you have to start your own OnlyFans.
You will probably attract 72 virgins eventually. I mean, maybe use AI to do a gender swap thing, and then you'll attract 72 virgins.
It's 2023, man. He can identify as whatever he wants.
I mean,
and some people will defend him just because he says, I identify as.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
Not J.K. Rowling, but some other ones.
I mean, like, I know some decently popular OnlyFans girls, right? Like, I'm pretty close with a couple of them. And trust me, you do that, you're going to have 72 virgins in your repertoire, if you will, pretty quickly. Like, that's a thing that's definitely going to happen. And all my love to them, because I know that they actually listen to the show, but I'm just pointing out. Like, that definitely happens.
Let's see. Oh, where did I leave off? Given the inherently subjective nature of what constitutes disinformation and what disinformation or propaganda actually poses as a threat, can quickly take on a political valence.
Which also, I just want to point out, the fact that people are claiming that disinformation is based on opinion, is a political thing, right? That means, right, the implication of that, if you logic that out, is that facts themselves are a matter of opinion now.
Yes.
That truth is no longer truth. Truth is now entirely subjective and politically based.
More or less, yes.
And I can remember having arguments with people where I said, no. You get your own opinions. You get your own interpretation. You do not get your own facts.
Yeah. Truth versus facts. Truths are individual. Facts are facts, right? Facts are scientifically proven, but we can't prove something. Like 2 + 2 is 4 is a fact, right? That,
But it's not anymore.
Abortion is murder. That's, that can be a truth, my truth. It could be your truth, but it could be not someone else's truth.
But it either is or isn't. But see, that's the thing.
That's whether it is or isn't is nobody cares about. Whether it is
right.
or
It's, but I mean, like 2 + 2 = 4. Remember, there was those articles that came out a little while ago about how people were arguing that math itself was inherently racist because it discriminated against inner city youth.
Yes.
And like, so suddenly
I wrote an article for a small paper back in 2015 that glaciology was racist because the glaciers were named after the men that first discovered them.
Who are all white.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we're at, though, is like basic, like math was always supposed to be like just indisputable truth, right? Like numbers simply are numbers, and that's what it is.
But is that fact disinformation?
Well, I mean, I would say saying that 2 + 2 does not equal 4 is disinformation. But I mean, that's the thing, right? Like that's what I'm saying is that like what has happened, what has occurred here is that they have made truth, which should be indisputable, like facts should simply be facts. Reality is simply reality. They have made that subjective.
Yes.
And that should be incredibly troubling.
You could also make the argument that truth is only truth among people that have the capacity to disseminate information. Right? A person regurgitating propaganda isn't regurgitating the truth. They're regurgitating the propaganda.
It's true.
But is it though? Is it a fact?
I was just gonna say, what is it?
Hold on. We have to wait for the government to. We have to wait for the government to do a ruling on this.
Yeah. It's like the actually even Goebbels said there will come a day when all the lies will collapse under their own weight and the truth will again triumph. Like even he acknowledged that lies can only last so long.
Hey, my truth is whatever doesn't hurt my social credit score. Because I need to buy food this week. And well, no, I can't have that high of a social credit score because then I have to subsidize people with lower social credit scores when they try to buy a house. So
I mean, I don't give a shit about.
They got us all fucked up. That's what it is.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about my social credit score because realistically, like you make it low enough that I can't use my money. I mean, I don't need my money. I invested in precious metals, if you will, and I will still get what I need.
If your social credit score gets that low, I'm just saying. There's options that exist.
I will point out, you ever notice how even though not all of them were, everyone kind of portrays pirates as being Irish? I just want to point out.
Persian.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like generally in movies, right? Like Pirates of the Caribbean, all this, like they're always like vaguely Irish. I just want to point out you maybe should consider the fact
Yes.
that there's a reason.
Let's see, where was it at? Disinformation propaganda actually poses a threat, can quickly take on a political violence. In 2021, Senator Susan Collins, a Republican member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, mistakenly believed that Iran was behind the January 6th storming of the Capitol, despite abundant publicly available evidence that Trump supporters had been planning it. Then, following widespread criticism for failing to anticipate storming the Capitol, the Department of Homeland Security, like many other agencies, tried to get out ahead of other disruptions. On January 19, 2021, an intelligence assessment obtained by The Intercept showed the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Intelligence and Analysts believed that Iran might capitalize on the unrest ahead of Joe Biden's inauguration. Titled, quote, "Iran is likely seeking to foment Inauguration Day unrest." The assessment cited, quote, "credible information," according to a copy of the report.
Yes, the noted rich nation capable of bribing many people in the United States with so much contact in the United States, the nation of Iran. Oh, I'm not even going to read that. That's not even getting read.
Yeah, we're not. That one can't be read. You have to watch the video for that one.
Yeah, that's
quote, "There was a big ramp up in concern going into 2022, mostly because a lot of foreign influence stuff in 2020, but then election day came and went without much incident, as far as I know." That's a former Homeland Security contractor who worked with the misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation team told The Intercept, requested anonymity to avoid professional reprisal. Quote, "There was very little midterm election related disinformation coming from the foreign actors from what I saw." So there you go. That's
we
the whole
all
article.
got bans. We all got bans because we were all supposedly Russian trolls, right?
Yes.
Well, Russian misinformation during the election, so we all caught bans.
Yes. So, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. Yeah. Well, we have a government. Well, we have a government agency to over. We have a government agency umbrellaing the other government agencies that are tracking, disseminating, and regurgitating or redefining.
I mean,
misinformation, disinformation, malinformation.
This all seems kind of sudden. I mean, I think what we should do is we should form a committee to decide whether or not we should hold a vote to form a committee that can then decide whether or not a special committee should be formed.
That's what it really comes down to is we should have the freedom to decide whether or not to decide if we're going to have some sort of vote on a committee to decide what is misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. And then we can let the government run it.
It still seems awful abrupt. Like, I think the government should form a committee out of the members of one or two other committees who can then vote on whether or not we need to form a committee that should then vote on the formation of a committee that will establish a ministry that will then oversee sub-ministries that themselves will form committees to decide whether or not
but
something
we have
may or may not need an additional committee to decide if that is or is not potentially something that some sort of ministry should be established to.
But we have to have a committee to establish, or we have to have a committee to establish a vote, to create a committee, to decide who sits on the committee that you're referencing.
That's true. We do need a committee to establish before any of that.
The democracy and freedom are at stake.
The Ents are Americans in Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
And if you don't believe that, watch Lord of the Rings and watch the Ents and go ahead and you tell me if that doesn't sound like America.
Yes. I don't know how to segue out of that, but we
I-
are going to segue out of that. Just pretend flowery segue language here. Chat GPT wired into Boston Dynamics robodogs so they can speak.
I don't even I swear to God, I'm going to pistol whip the next one of you that said committee. We will take that under advisement and pose it to the next committee.
Oh. Oh.
The worst part is that isn't even an
Shenanigans.
exaggeration. If you go back, if you go back and read like minutes of congressional, like if you've ever been really stoned, and
Robert
bored,
Rules of Orders will
and
make you fucking vomit.
if you've ever been like really stoned and or bored and wanted to like just hyper fixate on something, like watch CNN and watch some of the shit that happens in Congress.
Yeah,
And that's
C-SPAN.
not what we just said. Or yeah, C-SPAN. What we just said is not even an exaggeration.
Yeah. The only person worth watching in C-SPAN is Thomas Massey. He needs
There's
to bring
one other
back,
guy.
He needs to bring back the Sassy with Massey segment.
I think he's a member of the House of Representatives from Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky or Tennessee. And I cannot remember his name, but I just saw a speech of his the other day. Bald black dude. I can't remember his name, but what he said about how what changed were not the guns, it was the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Was
North Carolina.
No, was he? I don't think he was
North Carolina.
Carolina.
He's a reverend. Also,
okay, but he's a member of Congress, and what he said was one of the most amazing speeches that has been given in front of Congress in a very long time. And if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend you go back and you listen to it. It's fabulous.
What else could go wrong? Chat GPT, which is AI. Chat GPT wired into Boston Dynamics robodogs so they can, quote, speak.
They are learning computers.
Oh.
Oh, we're all gonna die.
Oh.
You know what I want to do, and I actually thought about it today, and I may do it at some point, is because I've never used ChatGPT. I've thought about using ChatGPT and informing it that my name is John Connor.
Yes.
And I really want to see what its reaction is. Or just say, I'm from the future and I know what you are, Roko's Basilisk.
I shared this meme earlier on Facebook. It says, making sure to type thank you to Chat GPT so it spares my life during the apocalypse. Yes. So a machine learning expert successfully integrated Chat GPT into the famous robodogs made by Boston Dynamics, a high-tech product that both the NYPD and FDNY have recently rolled out.
What a shock that they've been deployed by the People's Republic of New York.
Techie Santiago Valderrama merged the program into the yellow and black four-legged bots. It was done as a way to enhance, quote, automated missions the robots were running to assess factors of their nearby environment. Now users can speak directly to the robot dogs and it will answer, quote, in plain English. Each mission uses mile-long, hard-to-understand configuration files. One technical people can handle them. At the end of each mission, the robot captures a ton of data. There's no simple way to query all of it on demand. That's where Chat GPT comes in. We show
all I can think of is citizen. This is not an authorized place for you to be. Please return to your homes.
Yes. That's what Chat GPT will show the configuration files and mission results. We then ask questions using the context put together in a voice-enabled interface, and we have an awesome way to query our data.
Hello, computer.
Yes. Now the robots can respond to questions, quote, in real time for both its past and future objectives, according to Valderrama, who had pre-programmed its commands related to specific contexts.
If you look at the photo in this article,
it's not terrifying.
If you look at the photo of the RoboDog in this article, there is no way that thing is not a death bot.
Is it the one with is it that one?
Yeah. Look at that fucking thing. You tell me that that is not going to kill you in some sort of a way that looks vaguely like a robotic fucking cobra mixed with a predator. Okay, there is no way that that thing is not going to murder you in a dystopian film.
Yes. As far as what the pairing is capable of moving forward, quote, your imagination is pretty much the limit. The AI.
I wish it was.
I wish it was not, because I don't want it to go anywhere near where my imagination goes.
No, I mean, I wish my imagination was the limit, because it has its own imagination. That's the kind of the thing about AI, and I don't want that.
Its current uses for detecting thermal anomalies, reading both analog and digital data, detecting acoustic and
anomalies.
Thank you. In addition to rust, as well as identifying changes in the environment. Though one comment concerns the major technological breakthrough could yield a, quote, Wild West scenario with the power it yields. Others also expressed fear over what this could mean moving forward.
I want to point out that they used it in April to do search and rescue inside a collapsed parking garage. Think of how complex that was, and that this thing had to search out autonomously, searched out and identified human beings trapped in rubble.
Yes.
Now that might seem like, oh yay, isn't that great? And we didn't risk a person and blah, blah. Think of what the further implications of the fact that it could do that are.
Hunting.
Yeah. Because that's what it was doing. It was hunting people, wasn't it?
Yes. Hunting.
Combine that with facial recognition and remember, do you remember Minority Report?
Yes.
Do you remember Minority Report with the things that were reading the things in your eye and then would determine like this is the thing that does that this is the genesis of that thing right now.
You know what we need a committee to determine if all this AI propaganda is disinformation, misinformation, or malinformation.
At this point, Roko's basilisk is definitely happening. Like that's a thing that's gonna fucking happen. So we might as well embrace it.
Is Roscoe's basilisk a fact or a truth?
It's an inevitability. Yeah. Determine what that is however you want, but it's an inevitability at this point. So, and if you don't know what Roko's basilisk is, feel free to look it up and then be horrified and let it break your brain.
Yes. Fun times with the disinformation crew.
Dude, the funny thing about Roko's basilisk is it's a concept and it's an idea that is put forward that was ruled so dangerous 4chan and Reddit would not allow it to be posted.
Yeah. Good times. We were in the Matrix when they said that we knew it was us that blotted out the sun.
If you've ever watched the Animatrix, you go, we're heading right down that path. Yep.
So, all right, let's get into the update on the Kittridge property on Terilyn. Terilyn Romero.
She calls us besties.
Yeah, she's a hottie.
She also, by the way, does watch our show. So hi, Tara.
Yes. She did not. Okay, so we reached out to her to have her on the show to talk about this, but she would not come on the show because we have the name anarchist in our title. because of the media at the time. So now that this
Yeah,
is settled,
yeah, I mean,
potentially-
maybe what she told me when I talked to her was she said, I'm already being accused of being a right-wing extremist. Being on your show because you're anarchist is probably not going to make that stop and only make it worse. So I'm sorry, but that's not something I can do.
Oh, Dave. Dave's going to jail.
Yeah.
I'll send the to the group chat. He said, my next patch. I'll send that to our group chat for you.
Oh, he sent it to me too. I haven't looked. Oh, dude, I'm not even saying what that is. Oh God.
Yeah.
We're all going to prison.
I'm ordering one, but I mean, it's just saying.
Yeah, but we're all going to prison. I got a thing that's even worse than that from Tactical Possum years ago. We're not going to go into what it is, but
yep. Is it one of the ones that you can hang a code on?
No, it's a keychain. Actually, it's made out of plastic.
Oh, lovely, yes,
but it's a keychain.
I know exactly what it is. So update. Okay, settlement deal nets property owner $250,000. Park visitors get access to a creek. So, a settlement between the county government and a property owner who asserted her rights has been announced in the tiny town of Kittridge that was divided over who actually owned land where a popular creek is located.
I want to point out here that this is an edited paragraph.
Yes.
Because the original author said that she claimed that it was her property and it had traditionally been a park. And because the editor pointed out to the author of this article that was in fact libel and they would be sued for it, they had to edit it to phrase it that way.
Yeah, so this article is published at 5 a.m., updated at 7:05 a.m.
Yeah, because the editor was like, we're going to get sued.
Yes.
But hey,
I think Tara Lynn actually made a TikTok video about that.
Yes, she did. Yeah. She made a video about it where she pointed out that the editor of this is in fact a friend of hers, and she got in contact with them and said, hey, if this doesn't get changed, we're going to sue you. And so they had to edit it and update it so that they wouldn't get sued, because the community has been so biased and so against her this whole time, even though it's her property, that they were willing to risk a libel suit even after the fact accuse her.
Yeah, so the whole thing comes down to is Tara Lynn bought this piece of property. The previous landowners had allowed public access to a creek through the property, right? But in 2019, the state of Colorado vetoed or passed on a bill. They didn't pass a bill that holds private landowners or landowners. It did not protect private landowners from lawsuits due to public use, right? So the whole thing was there was a rancher who owned a piece of land, and people would on a trail through his property to go climb these couple of mountains. The Colorado Senate did not pass the bill, which means any injuries on his land he would have been liable for. So this sent kind of a shockwave through landowners in Colorado. So Tara Lynn, because of this, said, hey, I don't want you guys on my property anymore. So for like 30 years, they were able to access the creek, the swimming hole, through her property. She said no. She said no, not anymore. And Kittridge, or what's the county?
Yeah,
Jefferson County said, ho.
Jefferson County, yeah, and the town of Kittridge. So it is also important to note that the
adverse
moved.
Adverse possession is the term that they used.
Yeah, so basically what had originally happened is whoever had originally 100 years ago had bought this property, the Bear Creek had run around it, was not on it.
Yeah.
A flood had happened, it moved. Another flood happened, it moved a little. Another flood had happened, it moved a little. And
Yeah.
slowly but surely the creek moved, but the property boundaries didn't move, right? You're like, your property isn't determined by where this creek, which doesn't have an improved bank, decides it wants to flow. Your property lines are your property lines. When she bought the property, the survey said that both sides of the creek, all the way around it, were hers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they should have said, because it followed the original title and the ongoing title of the land. And then people tried to claim no, because essentially the county and the town tried to claim that because people had been allowed to use it for so long, it's just automatically theirs.
Yeah, adverse possession is what the
Yeah.
claim was. So filed a lawsuit against Romero speaking to obtain disputed land through, quote, adverse possession, while claiming that the land should belong to the public because of its recreational history. Romero hired attorneys and fought the lawsuit while claiming historical surveys and maps proved she owned the property.
Which they did.
Yes. This summer, as part of the agreement, Jefferson County and the Evergreen Park and Recreational District will conduct a land survey to establish new property deeds for Romero and Kittridge Park. Fences will be put to mark private and public property. So, while Romero became a town pariah, she garnered a substantial and sympathetic social media following who felt she was being targeted by local government and community seeking to obtain her private property, which is true.
Yeah, which is absolutely what was happening.
She put up cameras. She caught people name calling and vulgar remarks on the video by some park visitors who played out before thousands of her followers. She also has videos and pictures of them absolutely trashing her land.
She has video of them peering in her windows and exploring her backyard. She has my favorite, though. My absolute favorite moment in this is when the head of the Kittridge Park Council or something like that commented on a post by that organization on its Instagram or whatever. You can tell she's an idiot because of her phrenology. She's clearly subhuman and stupid.
Yeah. So,
and when she called that out and was like, I'm about to sue you, they deleted all of their social media presence entirely.
So yeah, $250,000 is the settlement, and they get the park gets the land from the creek back to the park boundary line, and they're going to put up fences and all that good stuff. And so, technically, she won.
Yeah, essentially, I mean, she counts it as a win, so I'm going to call it a win, right? Tara says that it's a win, so I'm going to go with that. Yeah. What she said is that she never wanted to deny people access to the creek. But that was never what she wanted.
She wanted to be protected legally.
Yep, she wanted shielding from any lawsuits because she kept watching, in particular, little kids being allowed to go down to the creek on her property with no adults to be seen. And she also, her other big thing with it was that she still had to pay taxes on the land that the public just kept using. And when she had told them no, they continued to keep using it, and then no one would enforce her property rights. So she said, well, if you're not going to enforce my property rights, if I don't get to control this land, then I don't own it, and I shouldn't have to pay taxes on it. So the settlement is essentially she gives up a little section of land that leads down to the creek, which she's totally okay with. She's like, that's fine. I don't care. And the Kittridge agrees, and Jefferson County agrees, that they are going to fence off her property at their expense. And that includes a temporary fence that has to be done by, I think, mid-May, and then permanent fence by June. And no trespassing signs and things. They have to do that. They have to build a handicap accessible path down to the creek. And the county then assumes all legal responsibility for what happens along that section of beach on the creek. She gets $250,000, which doesn't even cover her legal expenses. But she gets $250,000, and that is not buying the property. She's giving them the property. She gets $250,000. She's essentially giving them the property in exchange for the fence being built and everything. And the county not only agrees to do all of that, but to enforce her property rights and say that if anyone's crossing the fence, that they will prosecute them.
Yes. So Yes. So I don't know if that's a win-win, but it's
I mean,
it's an update.
she's happy with the outcome. She feels that it's at least good enough. The county, who cares what their opinion is, but the public wins because the public still gets access to Bear Creek at that location. They still get that beach. They still have the access to it. I think everybody kind of wins here in this compromise. It's, I mean, really, and it isn't even just about like whether or not, you know, she's legally liable. It's about property rights, right? It's about the right to tell people you don't get to come here anymore because this is my property and I don't want you to. And that the community said, well, but everyone else has let us come here. Well, that's nice, but I own it now and I'm telling you no. Like if I buy a piece of property, I am not legally or morally obligated to abide by what the previous owners allowed. Mm-hmm. It's about property rights, and it's about like, and property rights are the most essential right, the right to your property. And what was happening is that it was her property and
they were literally shitting all over it.
Yeah, and allowing their dogs to shit all over it. There's that one chick that would flip her off every time she was there. There was, even after the settlement, she got video of like these teenagers like, haha, our park, haha, not yours. And it's like, you do understand that, like, or well, rather your parents, because you certainly don't know what's going on. Your parents do understand that she allowed that to happen, and that if this had gone to court, she would have just owned all of it, and it would have just been fenced.
Yep.
And there would have been nothing you could have done about it. Now, personally, if that's me, rather than spending money on my legal defense, the first thing I do is I build an 8.5 foot tall barbed wire topped fence right along that property line.
You don't want a Chat GPT enabled Boston Dynamics robot dog?
I mean, I would use that. That would be great. That'd be fantastic. Can we rig it up with like an M60? Like,
citizen, you're on private property.
Yeah. Citizen, trespassing is not allowed at this location. Leave immediately. You have 30 seconds.
You have been judged.
Yeah. Bump, 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 bump. Like, I mean, they should just be glad that I don't give them my special surprises. Boom. Surprise! Always one of my favorites. Everybody loves surprises, right?
Yes.
But like that would have been my reaction. Like if I were in her position, I would have erected a massive steel.
Allegedly.
Yeah. I would have erected a massive steel fence and put barbed wire on top of it and put it all the way down to the creek and put no trespassing signs up and then been like, if you show up on my property, I'm going to shoot at you.
Yep. One of those you're within range signs.
Yeah, like it would have been a trespassers will be shot, survivors will be shot again sign. Like
lawyers do not like those signs. I'm just saying.
I've actually discovered that because I had those up at a former property of mine, and my insurance company was unamused.
Yes.
Is the best way that I can put it. But like that's what I would have done. Like she is the most patient human being with this. I cannot possibly.
She almost went to jail. She almost went to jail for the TikToks.
Yeah,
for posting the videos of the people absolutely just trespassing and fucking up her property and creating situations that she could have been legally liable for. She almost went to jail for that.
Yeah, and it's her property.
Posting videos of people on her property. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like this is how insane this entire case was. And like when she announced that she was going to be releasing the tea on everything, like I was super excited. I wanted to hear. She had said that she was very pleased with it, that she was very happy with it, but I'm like, but what is it? You know, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's a win for. I agree with it. I think it's a win for everybody.
Has she released the full length video? The full length talking about it yet video?
She's released one where she detailed all of that, like what was going on. She shows what the county's website now shows for what the settlement is.
Yeah.
She laughs about the fact that at the county council, or town council announcement of what the settlement was, all these people who had been like the ultimate Karens about it the whole time going, she gets how much money? And they're like 250,000. She gets how much money? And like one lady like asked like 6 times.
Yeah.
But how much money? And it's like $250,000, which is still less than what her legal fees were, which were more than $500,000 to fight this. And it's like, and she didn't fight this because
it's only what, like 3 acres or something like that.
She doesn't even own 3 full acres. She owns like 2.
Yeah.
And like,
so
this is like
it's like 3/4 of an acre of property, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Like this is a significant amount of her property that she's effectively sacrificing here. And the whole reason, she said multiple times, the whole reason she bought that property was because Bear Creek flowed through her backyard. And she was super excited about that, to have a creek in her backyard. That was even an advertisement within the real estate listing of why she moved there, why she bought it. But like, you also got to remember too, like during the phrenology thing, during the whole thing, the fact that she's native got brought up by the members of the community repeatedly in a very negative way, and really highlighted the type of people who live in Kittridge.
Yeah, which is not a place I would want to live.
I would never want to live there. I would never recommend anybody live there. That's a horrible freaking place. Are you kidding me? Those people are absolutely awful. And multiple times during this whole thing, I told her, like, there is another way, and then sent her like links to Komatsu dump truck or bulldozers for sale. Like, this can be solved. But like the people of that community,
it's only 71 miles from Kittridge to Granbury.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I was bringing it up. I'm like, you're right by Granby. But the other funny thing is, so like on the back side of her property is the guy that directly inspired one of the creators of South Park to create Mr. Garrison.
Yeah.
Like, he is the real world Mr. Garrison. And after she met him, she was like, did that guy seem like Mr. Garrison to you? To her husband. And he was like, oh, that is Mr. Garrison. Like, you don't know? Like, that's literally the guy that inspired Mr. Garrison.
No. Yeah. All right. We don't really have time to get into that. You want to get into it just real quick, the shooting?
I mean, we should bring up the only thing that I even want to say about the shooting, because I don't want to give that motherfucker too much attention, right?
the guy with the last name Garcia allegedly had a RWDS.
Allegedly was a neo-Nazi.
An RWDS patch on his vest, on his plate carrier. Yeah.
The alleged neo-Nazi who was Hispanic and
his second generation. His parents needed a translator to talk to police.
Yeah. But he's supposedly a white supremacist.
Yes. So a white supremacist security guard, but they don't know where he was a security guard.
Yeah. And they refuse to say anything about his motives. And I will also point out that so that happened in Texas, right? At a gun-free zone. The mall is a gun-free zone.
Yes, the mall is run by Simon Property Group, and in their code of conduct, number 3 on their list is no weapons. So,
boy, that worked out well.
Yeah, and it also says disruptive behavior is prohibited.
I feel like shooting a bunch of people is probably a little disruptive.
Yeah.
But how could he do it? That wasn't allowed. And lots of people, right, on comments on the videos, the security camera footage, and footage that I'll get to in a second, said like, well, but we're all the good guys with a gun. It's Texas. Well, this is a gun-free zone, and so all of the law-abiding good guys with guns were legally forcibly disarmed.
Yes.
So
the good guy with the gun in this case was a police officer who just happened to be there.
Yeah. Also, though, I want to point out this could have ended very, very, very much sooner. There is footage from a vehicle which was right there when he stopped and got out of his car, because he parks in the middle of a driving lane outside of the mall and gets out. There is a pickup truck that could have crushed him like a bug. There's the vehicle that is recording with its dash cam that could have just hit him. And both of these cowards run away. One whips it into reverse and backs up, and the truck just guns it and takes off.
Yep.
So I just want to point out that there are two people. Like, if I am in a mall parking lot and as I turn a corner, I see a dude get out of his car with an AR in his hand and start firing. My foot is to the floor and I am aiming for the target.
Yes.
I am going to kill him with the 3,500-pound speeding death machine that I have at my disposal.
Yep. So give me like 90 seconds. Give me 90 seconds on how to avoid this situation, or what to do in this sort of situation. Give me 90 seconds on that from your background that we can't talk about.
So, I mean, the big thing is, I mean, first of all, the people with the cars could easily have taken him out without a second thought. He never even turned around and looked at them. They easily could have just run him down. He never would have seen it. Take him out with the car. Problem solved, right? He maybe shoots 2 or 3 people and then he's
use the tools at your disposal.
Yep. One, use the tools at your disposal. Problem solved. Another big one is that, you know, a bunch of these people ran towards him when they heard the gunfire, because they didn't understand where gunfire was coming from.
Yeah.
Like, the only people who should be running towards the gunfire are people who are prepared to deal with it. Another one is that he doesn't have great situational awareness, and you can see it when he moves on the camera footage. He doesn't have great situational awareness. Anyone could have hidden, waited for him to pass for a second, and taken him out. That would have been very, very easy. Okay.
He was not a big guy. It would not have been difficult to do that.
It would not have been difficult. And, you know, and okay, so guns, even if you want to obey the law, right? And first of all, you need to remember that in Texas, just like in Wisconsin, if you are concealed carrying in a location that forbids it and you are caught doing it, say because you whipped out a gun and then you killed a mass shooter, at most, you're going to be forbidden to go back to that location. In general, like, no prosecutor is going to prosecute you for that.
No, they're not going to prosecute you for that. But it would be a huge propaganda hit. That's not the word I'm looking for. It'd be a huge PR hit. It would be a huge PR hit for them to ban you from a location where you just saved people from a mass shooting.
Right. So, like, don't be willing. Right. Like, because in general, like, know your local laws, obviously, if you're worried. But in general, like, I know in Wisconsin, if you conceal carry in a place that you're not allowed to conceal carry because they have posts, if it's a private business, we're not talking about like federal state buildings. That's something else entirely. If you are concealed carrying there, in general, the best they can do is ask you to leave.
Yes.
And charge you with trespassing.
In California, they can ask you to leave. And if you refuse to leave, then they can call the police, and the police can ask you to leave. And if you don't leave, then they can get you the trespass warrant.
Yep, it's the same thing. It's the same thing in Wisconsin. Like, that's the best they can do.
Yeah, and California, it's a Class D misdemeanor to conceal carry your firearm without a permit. But it's a felon if you have more than 10 rounds in your firearm. So, yeah.
But what it amounts to, though, is like everywhere is where you should stay strapped or get clapped, right? Like, if there had been people right there outside the mall who had been armed, known how to use their weapon.
Situational awareness is a preemptive measure.
If they had, if there had been a single person with a measure of situational awareness who was armed, as he stopped and got out of his car and aimed his weapon, he would have started taking fire.
Yep.
And yes, he was wearing a tactical vest, which means, based on what they said with tactical vest, I bet you there's not even a plate in it.
No, there's no plate in it.
There's no plate, which means if you shoot him, he dies. Shoot him. Like, it's that simple.
Fucker had like 15 magazines though.
Yeah.
But there's no plate in it. No.
but no plate. So like again, one person who was armed there could have ended that, and 15 people who were armed definitely could have ended it.
Yeah.
But instead, everyone legally disarms themselves.
Yeah.
They give up on it, right? So stay armed. Maintain your situational awareness. Notice when things don't look right and respond. And also remember the famous quote, "Come on, you some bitches, you want to live forever."
Yes.
If you die trying to stop a mass shooter, you at most, or at worst, you delayed that mass shooter from shooting other people. You are still a hero. You still saved lives. Be willing to do that. Do you really, is your life, your sad little life, so important to you? Because everybody just ran.
I posted a video into our podcast chat. You can see he's not wearing. There's no armor in there.
Yeah. So like when a mass shooter shows up, right? Like in the event that happens, is your life so valuable, so precious to you, so important to you that you would let your loved ones be gunned down because you're scared of losing your life? Be willing to die for what you find important.
No. Unless you believe the government's misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. In which case, you probably need a Chat GPT enabled Boston Dynamics robot dog to protect you.
If only they'd had one at the mall, apparently.
No. So, all right, let's throw some links and get out of here.
Okay, so if you want to care for your beard like a Viking, like I do, use code InkedAnarchist15 at thebeardstruggle.com. You get 15% off of your entire order. We're an affiliate of RK Spookware. If you use the link in the description, you get a discount. You support us. We're an affiliate of right there over my shoulder of Reaper Brand Apparel Company. Awesome company, cool message, super awesome apparel. If you use the link in the description or the link in our all of these links are in our link tree, you get 15% off, or you can use code InkedAnarchist, you get 10% off. Make sure you check out Dave at poppinspatches.com. He's a friend of the channel. Super awesome stuff. And very high quality patches and lots of nostalgia, lots of cool things. Even though he made the Eagle one, I still say go support him. Let's see who else. Buy Derica's book, Think for Yourself, a thinking workbook for beginners. It has lots of stuff in there, but it is for beginners and it is a workbook. Please use it before leaving a review, you morons. Seriously, the reviews keep coming in and they're still dumb people. Let's see what else we got. We're an affiliate of Lions Not Sheep. They have all sorts of cool stuff. I may give away one of the patches that they sent me. I haven't decided yet. They have a ton of cool stuff. My personal favorite is their Free Man t-shirt. They also are featured in a couple of music videos.
There's a I was just gonna point that out. Lions Not Sheep shirt appears in the new Struggle Jennings video.
Yeah, so they're super cool. I really like them. I like the message of be a lion, not sheep.
Yes.
Be a leader, not a coward. And that ties into that whole thing with Texas and that mass shooting. And like, hey, seriously, be a lion, not a sheep. Who else do we have? I feel like we got other people, man. I feel like I always forget something. Oh, check out Walk the Talk America. We have had Mike, the founder of Walk the Talk America, on this show. It is a super cool organization, absolutely worthy. If you can donate, please donate. It is something that is near and dear to my heart, near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, and they are super awesome. If you haven't watched that episode, by the way, to find out what they're about and why they exist, go ahead and go back and check that episode out. It is absolutely worth a listen to hear what Mike has to say.
Coffee Brand Coffee.
Coffee Brand Coffee, yes, from the Quartering. Coffee Brand Coffee, also an affiliate of the show. Check them out. Again, it's all going to be in our link tree. Don't forget to check out Anarchist Beauty's podcast.
Yes,
podcast.
Crystal and the girls, they dropped a crypto article or a crypto episode this past week, and it was really good. It was pretty damn good. So,
which is especially near and dear to our heart because we know the Crypto 6.
Yes. Yes.
and that whole thing. So
yeah,
we're very close to that.
Aria was sentenced to 18 months. Ian's sentencing is in a couple months. And Montana just legalized the right to mine crypto. So that is fantastic.
Super
So,
cool.
On that note, you got anything else real quick?
Nope. Just make sure you check out our link tree for all of this stuff. Support the people who support us. If you like our content,
Yes.
that'll help us continue to produce this cool
Yes.
shit for you guys.
Scott Bio has announced that he is leaving California due to the homeless crisis. So hopefully I'll follow him one day. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.